Hello, hello, hello. This is Carter Clues, and welcome to Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report. We have a great show today because we're going to talk about what Mike calls a real life time machine in relation to the upcoming President's Week 26 conference in Vegas. So we got a lot of great stuff for you. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, I'm doing good, Carter. Good to be with you, man.
It's good to be with you. In the current issue, this month's issue, October, of the Escape Artist magazine, great magazine, folks. Go to Escape Artist, subscribe to it. It's monthly. It's 100 pages long every month. The best international magazine in the marketplace. Mike, in that, you have an article. The whole magazine's about the upcoming President's Week 26, and we'll get to that in a few minutes if it's all right. But
Sure.
Your article about the real life time machine, I thought was captivating. It was absolutely captivating. And let me read one paragraph to you. It's short, folks, so don't leave your seat. That really lays the groundwork on it. Investing in the developing world is like being able to go back in time. With knowledge from our North American future, we can predict and provide the next product or services coming down the road in the developing world, Latin America. This is real investment power, but you can add the supercharger effect if you pay attention to demographics and economics. Explain that to us, because I think it's just captivating. It's intriguing.
Thanks, Carter. I've written articles about this time machine over the years. I update it each time. I think about it a little differently. But is that your time machine, Carter?
That's the graphics for your article. See the time there.
I got it.
You are driving the machine up. There we go.
There we go. All right, good. Well, it's funny because I in a lot of my physical presentations, what I do is I kind of get going, and then I stop and I say, all right, everybody, I want you to imagine right now. Imagine if H.G. Wells showed up right here, right beside the stage, with his time machine and said, anybody here in the audience, come on, come to get on this thing with me. Bring one check. And we're going to go back 10 years, and I'll give you all day today to go make one investment, and then we can all jump back on the time machine. We come right back to right here, right now.
Excellent.
How many people are coming back wealthier?
Oh, everybody, right?
Well, it's funny. People just kind of sit there, something like a bumps on a log. I'm just like, hello, who's coming back wealthier? Right? Anyway, and so okay, yeah. But the point is that hindsight is 2020. And when you work in the developing world, and you said Latin America, and that's where we work, and I'm very familiar with the territory and have 26 years now with ECI and 29 years with our mortgage company. So almost 30 years working in the region, right? I feel very comfortable there. But the same thing's true in Africa, in the developing parts of Southeast Asia. So it's the developing world, right? Because certain things happen, right? Now, let's be clear, and I'll give you one example where a bet on something wouldn't have paid off. If you'd have been putting copper wires for telephone lines in the developing world, right, in Africa especially, maybe 10 years ago, you'd have been sunk, because everything went Wi-Fi, everything went cell phone, overnight. Wi-Fi, right, satellite. And so that was probably not that. In fact, that's a very good example of how it doesn't always follow the same path, right? But by and large, development follows a similar path over time, right? And so products and services, if you have the first McDonald's in a country, you're going to do really, really well. And I hear this all the time, like, oh, how would you bring McDonald's? It's horrible. Like, I don't, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So if it's so horrible, then the consumers won't show up to eat it, right? But you know what? You build the first McDonald's in a country, there are lines out around the block to get in. Horrible or not horrible, you know what? People want it. And so my whole point is, if it's McDonald's, then the next one might be KFC or Pizza Hut or Burger King. I don't know, whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, you can look at this trend and you can say, well, you know what? The first McDonald's and Burger King are there. You know what? I want to get the Pizza Hut franchise. I want to open the first Pizza Hut or whatever, right? Or and other things in terms of like services, right? The kinds of services that happen in a developing country, like title insurance, right? And we talked about that last week or the week before last. It's
That's
one
right.
of the 15 questions, right? And so right now in the developing world, there's not a lot of title insurance, but it will come, right? It will come. And so that's an idea of a service that will happen as development proceeds. So this idea of a time machine is powerful, Carter, because if you see what's there, you look at what North America, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and right. Okay. You can put yourself kind of right in front of it. You can put yourself a little further out in front of it. If you get too far out in front of it, you might be the lag might be too long, or you might miss a technology like Wi-Fi or cell comes along, and all of a sudden the wires don't happen, and like, oh, missed that one, right? So again, it's an important element of the closer you are to what's next, the more probability that what's next will kind of follow what happened other places. And it's not just the US. You can look at what happened in Europe. You can look what happened in Australia. You can look at what happened in Japan and Taiwan and even in the developing world, different countries are at a different point, right?
Yes.
So you could go and look at, if you could, go look at Costa Rica, and it's hard if you haven't worked there. But again, I've been in the region for 30 years. I know what Costa Rica was like 30 years ago, and Panama was like 30 years ago, and I know what it's like today. And then you see a country like Nicaragua that's much further back on the development curve, even in the region, right? And you go, well, what's next? What's next, right? So, there you go, Carter. Good man.
There you go. Yeah.
And by the way, that is better than me flying the little time machine. That is a much better representation of time machine. That right there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's
great.
the time machine, Carter. That right there is the time machine.
That's it.
Yep.
I mean, I fell in love with that the first time I saw it in the Consumer Resource Guide.
Yep.
It's fantastic. And Mike, I think there's an advantage here that you point out in your article. Okay. You point out that according to Zogby did a poll, massive poll,
103,000 U.S. citizens were surveyed. 100,000 people surveyed. That's huge.
You're right. 103,000. And found out that 11.6%, or 26 million of them, had intended to invest or move offshore, own property or move offshore.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we know what those people like, because they're in the U.S.
Right.
So what are they going to look for? Right? Am I right? When they move to Nicaragua, Honduras, or wherever.
Yeah. They want hot water at all their bathrooms. They want plumbing that works. They want countertops at the right height. They want the lighting in the bathroom in front, so it comes on their face instead of behind them. Right. And so yes, that's right. They have an expectation of a standard of product that they're used to in the States. And so when they go overseas, the people that can deliver that standard of product, that familiarity of product, will absolutely be winners in the marketplace. Absolutely.
Winners in the marketplace. And in your article, you point out that of that 103,000, 17%, or 4.5 million, are their interest in moving or owning property is in Latin America. Right here, where you were the pioneer. 26 years ago, you went down and said, I'm going to buy here because I know the future. And of course, you turned out to be exactly right, which makes this article all the more credible because you've done it.
we have, Carter, and it's nice to have predicted the future well in this case. So yeah.
And then let's add another aspect to it, Mike. All right, you have said you want to go down there. We know the baby boomers are coming. We know they're coming. 26 million Americans say they're looking to move offshore. Large number to send to Latin America. And we know, you point out in the article again, the Ernst & Young report study, which is stunning, but all of us know it's true. Anybody that knows baby boomers, knows retirement age people, knows this. 60% of America's baby boomers, retired age people, will not be able to afford to live in the U.S.
Right. Correct. And it breaks my heart, Carter. It breaks my heart. I mean, people have paid into Social Security. By the way, I'm actually not sure that's true, because I think the government will figure out a way, either through inflation or whatever, to take care of the baby boomers. Right. It's the next generations after the baby boomers who I really feel sorry for. because there is going to be no money for them, right? There will be no money for them.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, but we say the government will take care of them. So the government just announced that those on Social Security are getting 8.3% increase in their Social Security next year.
yeah.
Unfortunately, inflation is at 8.8%. So what the hell kind of increase is that?
Well, and I'm sorry, and that's today's measurement. If I love
John Williams.
the website that you can go to. Gosh, I was thinking of it the other day.
Shadow Stats.
Shadow Stats. Thank you.
John Williams, Shadow Stats.
Oh, John Williams, right.
Yeah.
And if you plug in inflation, today's inflation, how Carter measured it, how Reagan measured it, how Bush measured it, right? Hell, how Obama measured it. Pick one, right? It's not 8%. It's way higher than 8%. So it's all, trick foolery to, like, if we don't like the number, we can look, if you put big screen TVs into your inflation index, they come out, the giant TV comes out at $5,000, and 3 years later it's $899. Well, guess what? That's a great anti-inflation example, right? Yeah. But if you put health care, right, fuel prices, medicine prices, medical care, you put those into the equation, college tuition, whatever, right? Although old people probably aren't paying college tuition, but medical care, medicine, fuel costs, all of those things that are sort of the food costs, right? You put all those
gas
things,
costs,
gasoline, right? Fuel, and heating, right? You put all those in, like, all of a sudden the inflation index isn't 8.3%. It's a lot higher. And so, you can play with the numbers, and they are going to continue to play with the numbers. So the real question is, even if the government kind of sort of keeps up with it, quality of life, standard of living is going to drop. In fact, a great economist, Mark Skousen, gave me an example one time, and I thought it was brilliant. He said, inflation is the government's solution to the unfunded, mandates like Social Security, right? And he said, and I said, well, what do you mean? He said, look, here's how it works. Today, let's say Social Security payment of $2,000 a month, for a couple or whatever, $2,500, whatever it is, right? They can afford to have a really nice dinner every night. Maybe they can eat steak a couple nights a week, baked potato, broccoli, whatever, glass of milk, he said, but if inflation is 6-7%, right? He said in 10 years, right, they're going to have chicken, maybe some mashed potatoes, some, canned corn, right? And in 10 more years, they're going to have a hamburger and some French fries. And in 10 more years, going to have a hot dog and some chips. And in 10 more years, or whatever it was, over like a 30-year period, he says, they're going to have Spam and leftover spinach. But
true,
the same money, same $2,500 a month. They're still eating dinner every night. They're still full. Their bellies are still full, but they're not eating steak and baked potato anymore. They're eating Spam and spinach, right? And he says that is the way governments are going to manage these unfunded mandates. They will continue to take care of people. People won't starve to death. Socialized medicine, everything free. We're already moving into all that stuff, right? But the problem is it's rationing. Look, at the end of the day, Carter, there's only so much to go around, and you can distribute it many different ways. The free market distributes it on price, right? Communist countries distribute it on party loyalty. Hey, if you're a loyal party member, you get the best hospitals, and right. And I think the American version is going to be a lot like the Canadian version, where, if you can afford to pay for it, you can. And if you can't, you're just going to wait long lines and 6 months and 8 months or a year for things. And, it is a rationing of a limited service. So, I think these are the kinds of things that North American retirees will face over the next 30 years. And there are better alternatives. There are absolutely better alternatives. My wife and I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years, Carter. We had a quality of life that was incredible. And $2,500 a month. Oh my gosh. You're going to eat organic fruits and vegetables, free range, meats and hormone-free cheeses, and, right? You're going to have this incredible quality of life, and your medical care will be phenomenal. My wife had a mammogram done, right, recently, and apparently, she has dense breasts, right? And about 55% of women have a dense breast, which means the standard mammograms don't read it very well, right? And so she had to go back to her doctor. She heard a podcast. It was about a lady that had dense breasts and they didn't catch it, a tumor or whatever, and now it's bad, right? So anyway, so she called her doctor and said, hey, I want to get this ultrasound or sonogram or whatever the next thing is where you can actually see through the dense breast, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and Carol said to me the other day, day before yesterday, I'm traveling now, so it was day before yesterday. She says, you know what? When we were living in Nicaragua, they always gave me a sonogram. I'm just like, right. And instead of $400, because this is out of pocket, so we're going to have to pay for her sonogram because it's not covered by insurance. Okay, right? The sonogram in Nicaragua was $60. $60 as opposed to $400.
That's it.
Right? But it was standard procedure. And so when people start to say, the medical care south of the border, it's horrible. Actually, you know what? Carol, my wife, right? About as conservative, diehard American as you can get, basically said, the medical care we got in Nicaragua was actually better. And I'm like, yes, it was, honey. Yes, it was.
It was better.
And it was like whatever, whatever. I don't know what 60 into 400 is, but 80% cheaper or something, or I don't know, whatever the math on that is. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, a couple of weeks ago when on Joel's program, the Global Wealth Fortress report, he was saying he had a complete physical in Belize, top to bottom, and it was $108. Probably would have cost $10,000 here. He said it was totally comprehensive.
Right. The executive physicals, I would get them when we lived in Nicaragua.
That's right.
They were a little bit more, but they included like the whole colonoscopy and endoscopy, and they put you to sleep, and then the heart running on the treadmill, and I mean the whole thing, sonograms, X-rays, the whole shooting match, right? And it was just a little under $500. But again, that's 10% of what it would cost in the U.S., right? 10 grand in the U.S. to have that kind of set of procedures and executive physical done. So, right, inexpensive, comprehensive, and truly, and most of these doctors, many, not most, many of these doctors trained in the United States.
Oh yeah.
Many of them trained in Europe, which and a lot of them trained in Mexico, which again, great healthcare, and people just don't understand how good the healthcare can be overseas. It's hard to fathom it, but. Yeah.
No, it's incredible. Yeah. Well, I don't know why, but it just flashed through my mind when we were talking about products you could bring south of the border, and for some reason it resonated. I remember missing when I lived in Honduras, missing butterscotch crimpets, right? well, I don't know, but and it relates back to the cost of living in the U.S. now. Mike, have you had a butterscotch crimpet lately?
I don't think I've ever had one, Carter.
Oh my God, tasty cake.
All right.
They are. When I was a kid, you got 3 in the package, 3. Now you get 2, and they're only 2/3 the size.
Okay, I'm gonna look. Butterscotch crimpet and
tasty cake butterscotch crimpet.
Okay, well, I love the little darlings. I love the ho-hos, the Twinkies. So I'll be looking for the butterscotch. Yeah.
I bet you all of those are smaller, but they go back. I'm being facetious, but they do go back to the cost of living here now, and the fact that there are 1,000,001 products and services you can bring, as you point out in this great article, the Time Machine article, you can bring south of the border. Yeah, I mean, it's excellent.
It is. Hey, Carter, I have to go in like 1 minute. And,
1 minute.
1 minute. I got to roll. I have another call, and I'm sorry. I'm traveling, and everything kind of got backed up. I was slightly delayed on my flight, so I'm running behind schedule. But the other thing we're going to talk about today is President's Week, and the only thing I'm going to say about President's Week is this: if you think that owning a time machine would make you wealthier, and I hope you put your hand up and say, yes, if I had a time machine, I'd be a lot wealthier, right?
Yes.
If you believe that, you need to come to President's Week.
Absolutely.
Get the information. Come to President's Week. We're going to talk about time machine. We're going to talk about asset protection. We're going to talk about compliance. We're going to talk about lots of different things at that conference. Truly, some of the world's best experts are there. It's an incredible lineup. Just request the information. You'll see the speaker list. I mean, it's Swiss money managers. It's people, European gold and silver people, I can't remember who some of the other speakers are at the time. I mean, it's just Joel Nagel, world class asset protection, second residency, second citizenship.
Number one.
Attorney, number one in the world. Yeah, exactly. And just an incredible lineup of people. And the attendees likewise are incredible. It's a great group of folks who come together once a year. It's the 26th annual President's Week,
Fantastic.
and it is phenomenal. So please request the information.
Do it.
Come join us. And Carter, there you go. That's right. Yep.
And we'll both be there.
Yes, we will.
There you go. All right, Mike.
Carter, got to run, man.
Had I known you were in such a rush, I went to throwing in the butterscotch crimpets.
That's okay. Butterscotch crimpets are good. Hey, Carter, let's do this thing, man.
Let's do this thing.